Hi everybody, my name is Richard Vigorelli and I'm a writer. Now, I'm going to be getting back to the second entry for Jack's diary soon. I'm still working on the script for it, not entirely sure which direction I want to take. We'll get there. Anyway, I want to talk about religion today, just my thoughts on it. And no, before I get into this, I am not promoting or decrying any religion or system of faith, whatever. What you believe is what you believe. This is about how to write one for whatever. Okay? So, religion. Now, it's so unbelievably complicated. Just look at Christianity and all the myriad of forms that that's taken over the years. Look at everything else. God, Egypt had 5 religions before Christianity rolled in and before Islam rolled in. Okay? And you'll do another video on that later. Okay? So, what is a religion? Well, religion is a system of belief that answers some questions for you that can't necessarily be answered scientifically or by going onto the interwebs and typing in what is this. Okay? One of the big ones is how did we get here? Yeah. Okay, and why? The second one is what does that mean to me, the individual? Third question it answers is how do I relate to people? And fourth question is what happens when I'm dead? Okay, now not all religions have to answer any of these. Some answer none, others answer only 1 or 2, and that's it. Everything else is, yeah, you'll figure it out, or it doesn't matter. Okay? And there's so many ways to do it. There's monotheism, like Christianity, Islam, Judaism. There is polytheism, like Hinduism. Pharaonism, that is the several different religions of ancient Egypt, otherwise known as Kemetism also. There is ancestor worship. There's forces of nature that you worship. There are items in nature that you worship, like the sky, like in Tengriism. There's so many different ways to do this. And like in Confucianism and Taoism, you don't necessarily have to revere anything. It simply is as it is. And it's more along the lines of how we interact with the world. So, when you're writing a religion, that's something you can base off of. Now, here in the West, a lot of people get bogged down in what I like to call the Christian mind. Of Christianity is the one thing I know, so therefore if I'm going to make a believable religion, it has to be Christian-esque. Even if I just, change the name of the god and we call the priests archons and blah, 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 blah. Okay? Or, well, I want it to be Eastern, so I'm going to mash up Buddhism and Taoism because, they're from the East. Okay? You don't necessarily have to do that. Now, it is easy to do it. It is really, because, it's prepackaged for you. Just grab, change some words, we're done. And if you're just kind of quick world building and it really doesn't mean much in your story, then okay, fine, sure, it still works. But if you want religion and or magic in that religion to play a more significant role, then you may want to start at the ground and go up. Now, one of the interesting things about religion is it tends to give people a sense of peace, and it also gives people a sense of order, because I don't know if you've noticed, the world is a little on the chaotic side. People don't agree with you. things fall out of the sky, the ground shakes, the water and fire fall down on your house and it falls apart, things like that. Okay? It can get kind of messy. So with religion, it gives people a sense of peace that everything's going to be okay tomorrow. Okay? And it starts off with what is important to the culture where that religion begins. So let's look at ancient Egypt, otherwise known as Kemet. Okay, got some people there living in the middle of the desert. There's sand everywhere, big river running through the middle of it, and there's this big glowing hot thing in the sky. It's called the sun. Well, that sun does two things. One, dehydrates you. Two, makes things grow. That's kind of neat. So we might want to revere it. Maybe if we're really, really nice to it, it'll be nice to us. So they make one or two really important gods that are the sun, or at least have dominion over the sun. Okay? And if you want your crops to grow, you say, hey, you mind? Okay? Now, let's say that I belong to the religion that reveres the sun. My buddy down the street is a fisherman, so he's a little bit more interested in the river. The sun's awesome and all, but, food comes out of the river. So he's going to revere the river. Now, interestingly, his wife, once, twice a month, makes her own river. It's called a period. So the guys that came up with this said, well, the river's a lot like a woman, so, they're basically the same thing. Now, the sun, because it's really hot and aggressive, is like a man. So they are similar. Now, if the sun gets too hot, then the river shrinks, and it doesn't flow quite right, and things die. Okay. But if the sun is warm enough, or it goes way too long, then the river gets really, really cold and turns solid. So we need to have a relation here where the sun helps the river, and the river helps everything else created by the sun. That way, there's life. If either one is out of balance, nothing works. Now we can then add that into interpersonal relationships. Guys, be nice to your girls, and girls, be nice to your guys. Okay? That's how that gets employed. So, when you're building a religion in a story, you may want to consider building the natural part of the world first. Where does the story take place? Is it in a mountainous region? Is it in a desert? Is it on an island? Are there giant animals everywhere that like to eat everything? Is there a big forest? Is it all plains? What does it look like? Okay? How strong are the lights in the sky, the sun, the moon, the stars, etc.? How important is water? How difficult are things to come by? Okay? Now, the things that either increase life or decrease life will be important. Things that increase life, people will want to make good and provide things to, write prayers for them, because then those good things will become more common and make life easier. Whereas the bad things, those will be owned either by some kind of evil deity or some kind of evil presence, like a devil, or it will be a shadow aspect of the good deity. Okay? Let's say, let's go back to the sun. Now, the sun helps plants grow. Okay? Plants like light. The sun provides light, so plants grow. Okay? However, if you are out too long in the sun, you turn red, fall down, and die. So, too much sun is bad, okay? The heat is bad. So what you want to do is you want to make offerings and prayers and all that to the sun, deity, whatever, make sure the plants grow, but you don't die, okay? Now, we could say that the sun just makes the plants grow, so we now have crops and everybody's happy, but he's got an evil brother that's heat. And every now and again, he wins and people die of heat stroke. Okay? So, it's kind of up to you how you want that to work. Of course, that's more polytheism. If we're just looking at forces, then things tend to take on a little bit more of an elemental move. Of course, your mileage may vary. Let's look at monotheism now. Okay? Now, one of the interesting things about monotheism is it's usually a progression from polytheism. Many of the ancient Mediterranean religions, like the one in Greece, Rome, the Etruscans, Egypt, all of that, the gods were, when Christianity came about, gods were starting to knit together and become one out of two, but there was still a couple of dozen, but they were slowly integrating into one deity because it was easier. Okay? Now, with monotheism, a lot, like I said before, we tend to fall into the trap of Christianity or Judaism or Islam because that's our template, that's what we know. Okay? By no means do you have to do this. Okay? And also by no means do you have to have any proselytization. Okay? Yes, religions are going to spread, but I'll get to that in a minute. Okay? Again, what do people value? Okay? What is important? And how do those values relate into society? Right? Just look at the history of Christianity. Christianity during the Roman Empire the tenets are still the same, but its behavior is different. Whereas you fast forward 1,000 years to the Spanish Empire, totally different religion, basically. Okay? Yes, the prayers are basically the same. Yes, the rituals are basically the same. But the way people act is different. That was my cat. So, pay attention to that in the story, especially if you're doing something that's going to go over on time. Okay? As far as the spread of religion, you also need to take a look at that. And one of the things you'll find is the smaller the religion is, the fewer followers, the more universal the belief structure is. Whereas the more people that believe in it, the more probability of a different culture, looking at a different aspect of it, taking over different pieces of that religion, and changing the way things are done because, well, it's just easier to do that here. Okay? That's why in ancient Egypt there were actually 5 religions. Story for another time. It's why now we have Catholicism, Eastern Orthodoxy, Protestantism, which is actually about a dozen other sub-religions within that, and then we get all the wacky ones where other things, okay? Also, religions evolve, okay, as they come into contact with new things. Such as they meet a new culture. They run into a new problem because technology advanced, etc., etc., etc. The religion may have to answer something or incorporate something new into it. Christianity, before it met the Germans, Christmas was just as really neat feast, and that was it. There was no tree, there was no burning of a log, there was no pudding, etc., etc., etc. That's all influx from the Germanic peoples from, Germany and Scandinavia. Okay? The Yule log is from the Festival of Yule. It's about a week long. It's the middle of frickin' winter. They go out, get a big log, and light it on fire because we remember the good times of when it was warm and really hoping the sun comes back. Okay? Because they valued the sun. I mean, it was nice. Okay? So, with that, remember, it evolves. It changes. Things that don't change tend to die. Okay? They tend to become passé and nobody cares. Okay? If things don't grow, that's all. All right? And when you're writing that into your story, especially if that religion is going to be a major component of your world, you may want to consider that. You may want to consider if there are people in that religion that their life is the religion. What are their lives like? Are they allowed to marry and have children? Are they allowed to own things? Are they afforded are they afforded political powers on a secular basis, even though they have religious power on top of that? Okay? Such as, can the head of the religion also rule the country, like in England? Thank you, Henry. Is your clergy, as it were, allowed to kill? Are they exclusively about medicine, or do they just pontificate, like I'm doing right now? Okay? These are things you need to answer. Okay? Look around at all of the religions, not just the ones that are active right now, and yes, what we call mythology is a religion, it's just not widely practiced anymore. Okay? So look into those. Maybe you can find some ideas in those and then incorporate that into the religion you are writing for your story. Okay? Now, when you're done building your religion, packaging and then all of this, I'm sure it's really freaking cool. You don't need to include literally every single aspect of it into your story. Just the pieces that are relevant to the plot. Okay? Because then it's an info dump and a bunch of exposition and I'm now lost. Okay? So, well, for example, let's say I'm writing a story where medieval Christianity is a major component. I really don't need to know how long it takes to go from being a layperson to a friar to a priest to the Pope. I don't need to know that because my story is about pirates that become redeemed. Okay? It's irrelevant. But let's say one of those pirates decides he wants to become a priest. Well, first he has to become a friar until he can learn. Then he can become a priest. Well, he really wants to also become a cardinal. Well, that's going to take some time. Okay? And he's going to have to do a lot of stuff about that, and that's a totally different story from Let's Go Raiding. Okay? So, that is about my thoughts on religion. I may do another one of these. I kind of want to do something on Kemetism and show you the differences of the various religions that were in that later, but we'll get there. So, if you're new to the channel, hit that big red subscribe button down below. Like and subscribe. Ring the bell. Leave a comment. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye now.